One punch can kill. Please do yourselves a favour and give the next few minutes your full attention. We hope that as a result of what you're about to hear, you will never get involved in one punch either on or off the pitch. Our Gaelic games are some of the best games in the world. They are a fascinating blend of skill, physicality, intelligence, teamwork and passion. We are proud of our games and we want to keep it that way. Unfortunately, there has been an increase in the frequency and severity of violent actions on the pitch, the consequence of which can be devastating both for the victim and the perpetrator. By one punch, we mean the action of throwing one or two punches. One punch is different from a sustained attack. However, the consequences of one punch can be just as severe. Statistics say that you males aged 16 to 25 years are more likely to either be the victim of or the perpetrator in serious assaults. That means that you're more likely than any other group in the population to either die from injuries sustained from one punch or to be left with severe lifelong injuries. It also means that you're more likely to be convicted of murder or manslaughter if someone you punch dies from their injuries.
I'm Martina Jordan. I'm a social worker, a mediator and a restorative justice facilitator.
My name is Niall Murphy. I'm a solicitor based in Belfast and often represent people charged with criminal offences in the criminal courts.
I'm Dr. Shane McCarney and I'm a consultant clinical neuropsychologist in the Community Brain Injury Service in the Western Health and Social Care Trust. Head injuries are commonly due to a direct blow to the head, sometimes not a direct blow to the head even, and in the GAA world, I suppose due to player size and power and speed and the strength and conditioning programs that players are going through, just the collision force between two bodies can actually cause the head to move from side to side. When someone has a brain injury and they experience it, and that could be on a night out or it could be on the pitch, usually, but not always, there'll be a loss of consciousness. It's what most people associate with being knocked out, and they think of that whenever you think of a brain injury. But sometimes being dazed and confused is the kind of the starting point of noticing that you've got the symptoms of an injury to your brain. There's a number of and a range of consequences of a blow to the head. The most troubling from my point of view and the work that I do are those blows that come to the side of the head. The side of the head where your head is rocked and extends the neck and rotates the neck muscles can also cause ruptures to your carotid artery, which can lead to stroke and death. Blows to the side of the head that fracture jaws can also lead to other blood vessels like the meningeal artery being ruptured, which can also cause stroke. The side temporal skull area is the thinnest part of the skull and is very easily fractured with a direct blow to the head. And any of these things are bad of themselves, but whenever it results in blood collecting inside the skull, creating pressure, injury to the brain tissue itself, that's when things get really severe. Physical symptoms such as coordination difficulties, balance, dizziness. You can have all sorts of cognitive difficulties where your attention can be poor, your ability to concentrate, your ability to process information at speed can be much slower, and people will notice memory difficulties. At a behavioural level, it can create all sorts of personality changes, irritability, agitation. And at an emotional level, there can be all sorts of anxieties, worries, concerns, due to the injury itself, due to the suddenness of it. Sometimes, and quite often, these things happen out of the blue. These kind of one-punch attacks sometimes are blows to the head are often referred to as the card's punch. You don't see it coming, and that can make people very fearful and worried about the potential for it happening again. If the injury is severe enough, you might have to report it to the DVA, which could impact on a person's ability to drive. Could be 6 months, could be longer if they had epilepsy or seizures. It'll impact on their ability to work and earn income. So the effects of a traumatic brain injury are huge, wide-ranging, and definitely something we want to avoid if at all possible.
Not only can one punch be life-changing for the victim, it can also change the perpetrator's life forever.
When someone has been the victim of an assault, in a serious case of assault, people can die. And I have had the misfortune to deal with a category of cases which are known in the courts as one-punch manslaughters. I have had the regretful experience of representing good people, good students, good citizens who in a moment of madness have lifted their hands and have caused catastrophic injuries.
If you are suspected of being a perpetrator of a one-punch assault, it is very likely you will be arrested.
You will be interviewed by police and you will be required to account for your actions. You have the opportunity to present a defence, but this is your moment to advise police as to why you have taken the course of action that has led to your arrest. There are various criminal offences that an assault will be categorised by, all depending upon the circumstances of the incident and the severity of the injury. Any abrasion to the skin, something that might require stitches, that will be categorised by police and by our courts as an assault occasioning actual bodily harm. A more serious assault, perhaps a broken jaw or a broken nose or broken teeth, will be categorised by the police and the courts as grievous bodily harm. GBH with intent attracts a minimum sentence of 3 years in custody. That is to say that a court has no liberty to sentence the person, if found guilty, to anything less than 3 years. A Section 20 with no intent but that the injury is caused can resolve custodially, but also non-custodially. When a person has been charged to court, it can often take months, even years, regrettably, for a case to come to trial. And there are circumstances whereby police can and will impose bail conditions, and one of those bail conditions could be not to see, speak to, or have any contact with the injured party. And if that is a circumstance which has arisen as a result of a match, that could reasonably resolve in a bail condition that you're not allowed to play football anymore. The delay sometimes in a court being able to deal with a case carries with it the burden of a trial, of a court case, and that is an unseen stress in any defendant's life. And they obviously have a right to contest a charge and defend themselves, but the weight of that on your shoulders can last for 12 to 18 months. When you have a conviction for GBH or ABH, you are not allowed into America, you are not allowed into Australia. Your liberty to travel is impacted forever for what might be an exuberant, misplaced single punch that will transform your life forever. The courts, I know, have expressed grave concerns with a growing trend in young males. They are now in a frame of mind to issued quite strong deterrent sentences. Now the courts will benefit from the camera recording, and as we've seen, these things go viral almost before the night's out.
For the perpetrator having to deal with the fact that they have seriously injured someone and are likely facing a court case, the burden is huge.
When they leave the pitch, when they leave the nightclub, when they are arrested and brought into custody, and when they've had time to calm down and reflect, all of them have almost immediately regretted what they've done. They cannot comprehend how they allowed themselves to lose control to the extent where they have significantly hurt someone. They feel scared. They feel a deep sense of shame.
Very often persons that have been charged become socially regressive and do not feel that they want to partake in social activities. So there are so many spin-off stresses that can resolve when an individual has been charged with a criminal offence.
And the effect on the perpetrator also, at an emotional level of having injured someone to such an extent that it affects their life, can be a debilitating effect on them also. And worse even still, if it ends up in taking someone's life.
The burden of one-punch assaults affects loved ones and teammates.
If you imagine the parents of the young person who has broken someone's nose or broken someone's jaw, how they must feel. They are devastated and disgusted and ashamed that their child would do this. The victim's parents are generally very protective. They are very upset, devastated. They keep using the word devastated.
Fortunately, as yet, no one has died on a Gaelic pitch as a result of one punch. But as the prevalence of off-the-ball incidents increases, so too does the likelihood that someday someone will die while playing Gaelic games.
When I first came into my post about 15 years ago, the biggest source of injury or cause of injury were road traffic collisions. Nowadays, the biggest by volume, by number of referrals that we receive are due to assaults. And also, unfortunately, from football matches at weekends, from sports games. It's not all GAA and rugby and soccer. You know, there can be all sorts of collisions and unnatural concussions and head injuries as part of the rough and tumble of the games that we play. But unfortunately, there is a rising number of these one-punch attacks, these off-the-ball incidents where someone gets a blow to the head.
Our sports are so important in our communities as an expression of our culture. They are contact sports, and there is the opportunity, I know this from having played myself, to be as physical as is required within the rules. But there is nothing courageous, noble, honourable about punching a man off the ball.
All of the cases that I have dealt with have been one punch, and all of the cases that I have dealt with have been off the ball. I'm seeing an increasing amount of these types of incidents on football pitches, are broken jaws, broken noses, fractured eye sockets, broken arms, loss of teeth, broken teeth.
I think lots of sports now are realising more and more the potential long-term consequences of blows above the shoulder to the head. We're realising more and more, if you hit someone at all around the head, you might break their nose, you might break their jaw, you might knock them out. And rather than thinking of that as being something to boast about, it's actually very dangerous. But the force that's generated by a punch is enough to fracture a skull, just as much as falling from a ladder is. When you're hitting a stationary object, another person's head, it doubles that force. A punch can kill, but sometimes even worse than that, it can affect a person's life for the rest of their life.
Be aware that if you join into a brawl and someone gets seriously injured or worse, each person will be held legally accountable for his or her actions.
A teammate comes in and that person might not have lifted his hands. A third person comes in, a fourth person comes in, and all of a sudden you have dozens of people, and the 17th or 18th person who arrives on the scene and does throw a punch, independent of what has gone on before, he is responsible for the damage that he has caused at that time. But in law, that could be construed as a fray, as well as assault. That is behaviour that isn't tolerated and should not be tolerated by any coach or by teammates. You know, teammates need to stand up and hold their players to account.
I think coaches and managers, parents have a lot of responsibility in terms of being good role models, being intolerant of children being verbally abused from the sidelines and on the pitch, being intolerant of adult players and young people being verbally abused from the sidelines and on the pitch. If you can't manage your anger on a pitch, you need to be able to walk away. You need to learn how to walk away and calm and breathe, rather than respond in a way that you would not have wanted to, that will have unintended consequences for you and for the people you hurt.
If these kinds of events continue and they become commonplace, as they have tended to become now over time, the chances of someone dying eventually from this on the field of play becomes higher, and that's not something I think any of us want to see.
We have all played the game, and I know as well as anyone how we can lose our temper on the pitch. I am now appealing to you all to please control your emotions in that moment, because it could change your life and your family's lives forever.